Every image in this film of Melbourne is real, photographed between 1858 and 1915, restored from the surviving originals, recolorized and brought back to life with AI. This is Melbourne in 1858. One of the earliest surviving photographs of the city. The European settlement was just 23 years old. Within a generation, it would become one of the wealthiest cities in the world. These are the people who built Melbourne, rode its trams, filled its markets, crowded its racecourses, survived its crashes, celebrated the birth of Australia, and marched through these same streets on their way to war. This is the story of how a gold rush settlement became one of the great cities of the Victorian age. In 1851, news of rich gold discoveries in Victoria triggered one of the great migrations of the 19th century. People arrived from across the world carrying picks, shovels, and a level of optimism rarely supported by experience. They poured into Ballarat, Bendigo, Castlemaine, and the surrounding goldfields. Tents spread across the landscape. Settlements appeared almost overnight. Fortunes were made, lost, stolen, and frequently exaggerated. But the greatest fortune created by the gold rush was not made by a single miner. It was made by Melbourne. The gold flowed south. Every miner needed tools, food, clothing, transport, banking, and somewhere to spend whatever money survived the journey back from the diggings. Melbourne became the port, warehouse, bank and shopfront of the Victorian gold rush. Merchants grew rich selling supplies. Banks filled with bullion. Ships arrived crowded with migrants and departed carrying Victorian gold. During the 1850s, Victoria produced roughly a third of the world's gold. Its population surged from around 77,000 in 1851 to more than 400,000 by 1857. Melbourne absorbed the people, the trade, and the money. Over the decades that followed, gold wealth helped pay for railways, roads, libraries, universities, theatres, grand public buildings, and enormous banks designed to reassure everyone that the money was perfectly safe. Melbourne was no longer a distant colonial settlement. It was beginning to imagine itself as a great city. By the 1880s, Melbourne did not merely want to be prosperous, it wanted to be seen being prosperous. Along Collins Street, Burke Street, and Spring Street, architects borrowed freely from Rome, Paris, Venice, and anywhere else that looked expensive. The Town Hall, Parliament House, the Public Library, the Melbourne Fish Market, the Grand Hotel, Princess Theatre, the Fink Building, and the Federal Coffee Palace gave the city a skyline almost entirely out of proportion to its age. At the corner of Burke and William Streets stood the Menzies Hotel, Melbourne's first grand hotel. Visiting English novelist Anthony Trollope declared he had never stayed at a better inn anywhere in the world. the Royal Exhibition Building opened for the Melbourne International Exhibition of 1880. A vast monument to industry, empire, and Melbourne's growing conviction that the world was watching. Soon visitors were calling it a vast monument to Marvellous Melbourne. Melbourne agreed. The city's confidence was not confined to its buildings. It spilled into the streets. People gathered for flower shows, exhibitions, royal visits, religious processions, political demonstrations and parades, celebrating almost anything that could support a brass band. Workers marched too. In 1856, Melbourne stonemasons downed tools and marched from the university towards Parliament House. Their demand was simple: 8 hours work, 8 hours rest, 8 hours recreation. They won the 8-hour day without losing their previous pay. For decades afterwards, the victory was celebrated with enormous processions of Union banners, decorated carts, and marching bands. Melbourne was learning something important about itself. It enjoyed a crowd. On public holidays, families escaped the city for picnics. They travelled by train, carriage, tram and ferry, carrying rugs, baskets, crockery, children, and enough clothing to make relaxation unusually difficult. They spread themselves across beaches, gardens, riverbanks, and patches of bush. There were sandwiches, tea, races, rowing, cricket and dancing, all conducted with the firm Victorian belief the ants could be defeated by good manners. For all the formality of Victorian life, the photographs reveal something wonderfully familiar. People wanted a day off. They wanted sunshine. They wanted to sit on the grass with their friends and forget briefly what the city expected of them. And then there were the horses. At Flemington, thousands gathered to watch fortunes change hands in minutes. The wealthy arrived in carriages. Workers came by train or walked from across the city. Bookmakers roared. Hats became improbable. The Melbourne Cup was theatre. A city dressing up, placing its bets, and hoping luck might pass for judgment. On the river, another form of competition took hold. Rowing clubs built sheds, crews trained before crowds gathered on the banks, bridges and pleasure boats to watch them race. The first Victorian public school boat race was held in 1868. Later, regattas transformed the river into a floating grandstand, part athletic contest, part social occasion, part opportunity to be noticed wearing an excellent hat. Then in 1901, Melbourne was given its largest stage yet. Australia became a nation. For the opening of the first Commonwealth Parliament, the city covered itself in flags, lights, and temporary ceremonial arches. There were royal escorts, military bands, trades processions, stockmen, school children, and crowds arriving from across Victoria and the new Commonwealth. On the 9th of May 1901, the Duke of Cornwall and York opened the first federal parliament inside the exhibition building. For the moment, Melbourne was not merely a colonial capital. It was the seat of a new nation. It must have seemed that Melbourne's rise was complete. The streets have changed, the grand buildings have new names, and the people in these photographs are long gone. But the city they made is still here, in the crowds, the ambition, the noise, and the restless belief that Melbourne could always become something greater. Marvellous Melbourne was built by gold, risk, hard work, and astonishing confidence. And more than a century later, that same spirit still moves through its streets,